the health aspect of VeeDads in with Daily Dads and everything else. So one thing in particular I want to make sure that I'm doing right now is pulling in some of these nuggets, um, these little bits of information, questions, anything that a lot of my clients, my patients have really been coming across. And I'm saying patients because most recently I've got on some insurance panels. And while I'm extremely nervous about it, just because there's a lot that goes on once we are accepting insurance, I'm excited about it. But overall, what I want to do a quick like 5 to 10 minute health dads healthy bite. I don't know what we're going to call it, but I want to make sure I'm getting better about it. It's going to be for you, but also for me. Fridays, maybe a little bit longer form as we want to usually do, which is always going to be good, and kind of leave that maybe for some interviews. But anyway, look, this is what I'm getting to today. Healthy dad, healthy bite, 5 to 10 minute little review question that I really got today. Now, the question about snacks really was coming up. Now, there's so many nuances to understanding why or when someone really should be eating, or in some cases, maybe not planning to eat. But one question came up today, which I thought was really good. Now, I do have a dietitian friend that does talk about this often. And what this is, it's the carb to fiber ratio. And the carb to fiber ratio is where we're looking at the back of a package. And yes, you can eat some foods out of packages for sure. But looking at your food, looking at the back of a package, you can really see how something can affect your body when you end up eating it by looking at the carb to fiber ratio. Now, I don't cover this often, except for the fact that I just talk about fiber all the time. But when you're looking at a food, how do you actually know how this is going to affect you? Now, you would do this mainly because you want to be able to control your blood sugar. That's what fiber does. Fiber, protein, fat, all these kind of foods are going to help you control your blood sugar. When we can stabilize blood sugar a little bit more, and yes, having blood sugar spikes is definitely an okay thing, and in some cases necessary, especially with my athletes. But we also want to make sure that we're not doing it a lot throughout the day. And especially if you're not going to be someone who's very active, it's not really necessary to have these blood sugar spikes because you're going to have this reciprocal downturn where you can have low blood sugar, and many challenges can come in with that, and we'll leave that for another time. But what we want to make sure we're doing is giving you a way that you can maybe evaluate a food, snack food, it could be a pre-made meal, whatever it's going to be. But on the back of any package, we're just talking about the nutrition label there, you're going to see a few things. And I think that could also be a great discussion for another day too. But there's two things in particular that you can take a look at. One is going to be where it says carbohydrate. Number two, I really wish we had a little screen where I can put this up. We'll get there. We're going to advance in tech at some point here with VeeDads. But I want you to look at the nutrition label. Now, on that nutrition label with calories and protein and fat and saturated fat, added sugars, all these type of things, you're going to see two things that I want you to focus on in this discussion. One is going to be the carbohydrates, and the other is going to be fiber. Now, you're going to find fiber underneath carbohydrates because really anything that has fiber in it is going to come from a carbohydrate. Now, carbohydrates are not inherently bad, and in fact, in most cases, they are going to be good. Where I think we get mixed up with our information and our thoughts around this kind of stuff is usually in terms of portion sizes. But what I want you to think about here is how can we actually eat carbohydrates without so much of a negative effect in terms of blood sugar? Well, your carb to fiber ratio is going to be helpful. So what I want you to do is I want you to look at how much carb is going to be in there and then how much fiber. And what we're really looking for right now is a 10 to 1 or a 5 to 1 carb to fiber ratio, right? If there's 10 grams of carbohydrate to 1 gram of fiber, that's a 10 to 1. If it's 5 grams of carbohydrate to 1 gram of fiber, that's going to be a 5 to 1. Now, this is the thing and why I don't cover it often. Because when we're talking about these ratios, the reason we want to look at this is, again, because it's going to control blood sugar. And that can help us with energy. It can help us with, let's say if we have a chronic disease in terms of, type 1, type 2 diabetes, all these kind of things can be really helpful. But what I'm so concerned about is when we look at this, where does it come from? Yes, it is true that if we look at the amount of fiber that we take in, I think it's every 7 to 8 grams that there is a marked benefit in longevity in terms of overall health. So eat more fiber and that's going to be good. Fiber coming from things like our vegetables or fruits and our grains as well. Some fat items like nuts and seeds are going to have those too. But when we look at fiber, how much do we take in? Now, 25 to 35 grams of fiber is going to be good. Sometimes I push higher. Some people, depending on if they're a wonderfully small person, they can end up taking in lower. But where does this 10 to 1 come from? Is that really a necessary thing? Because if we're looking at the 10 to 1, where does that come from? That really comes from the American Heart Association in 2020, part of their what they call their impact goals. And really what they were seeing is that the more fiber we have and closer to this 10 to 1 ratio, right? Again, 10 grams of fiber, 10 grams of carbohydrate to 1 gram of fiber, that's 10 to 1. 20 grams of carbohydrate to 2 grams of fiber, that is still a 10 to 1, obviously, right? But what this is really recommending is that 10 to 1 ratio, because it's going to help us make sure that we are going to, one, identify foods that are more of a whole grain. Okay, cool. I like that idea. If something says that it's whole grain, well, maybe that they're actually kind of just adding some whole grain to it, but it's not really a complete whole grain. So yeah, I get it, and that's definitely cool. It feels as if it kind of stops there. And while, yes, it's going to help you get the fiber you need, going more to a 5 to 1 ratio, we're going to see where that really ends up coming from. Now, a 5 to 1 ratio, basically just saying it's less carbohydrate and more fiber, or more fiber to the carbohydrate that you're going to end up eating, it is found to maybe have some benefits here. I'm going to cut to the chase, right? Right now, it seems that this ratio is a little bit, needs more research. How many times do we kind of hear about that? But one thing I do like is this, is that when we eat certain foods, when we have something like we're looking to control blood sugar, we can look at something that we know as the glycemic index. The glycemic index is going to be talking about certain foods that are going to raise your blood sugar more or less. That ends up being a little bit of a challenging list to remember for some people. This is a quicker way to do it, which is what I do like about this. So if we want to understand how much a food is going to raise your blood sugar, go look at the glycemic index list. Okay, go do that. The other thing you can do, especially if it's a packaged food that has a nutrition label on it, look at your carb to fiber ratio. Closer to a 5 to 1 is going to have better blood sugar control. Up to a 10 to 1 is going to have blood sugar control too, but it's helping identify really, is this a true whole grain type of food that is not going to have as much of a negative benefit on our body, on our blood sugar. And so again, while we still need a little bit of research to understand if this is a really proper ratio, it is going to be associated with better blood sugar control, easier to identify foods that can be better for our health long-term. And you know what? Anything that's going to help us eat a little bit healthier, more beneficial, because we're not going to demonize foods. We just want to understand how they fit into our lifestyle. It's going to help us. So look, carb to fiber ratio, throwing it at you. This is our first Health Dads Healthy Bite, 5 to 10 minutes. I don't even know how long this was. Oh, 8:20, 8:30. Okay, good. We're good. We're under 10. That's good. But I'm going to leave it there, guys. Fiber to carb ratio, carb to fiber ratio, rather. Look at your foods. 10 to 1, 5 to 1, both good options. Control your blood sugar further. Go 5 to 1. You know what? If you can do me one more favor, I'm going to toss this in there. Look, I tell all of my clients this. If you want to make sure that you're eating enough fiber, yes, eat more fruits and vegetables. If you want to understand exactly how much to eat, well, we can break that down too. But 2 fruits a day, 4 handfuls of non-starchy vegetable, and 1 meal at least with beans, oats, or potato. If you do that, I promise you, you're going to be on your way to a more healthful lifestyle that's going to keep you satiated, that's going to work on your short-term body composition goals and your long-term health. All right, guys, I love you. We'll see you next time. Bye.